Hi everybody, this is Rob over at Kudzu. Just going to run through a real quick demo here of our new data migration capability. You've seen the demos of, at least I hope you have, InfoPath to K2 Smart Forms, InfoPath to Power Apps, InfoPath to our runtime inside of SharePoint. This is kind of the add-on to that. So this can take that same data from those InfoPath forms, if it's in a form library, and move it to a SharePoint list. So do a full migration of that data, move it to a K2 Smart Object, move it to a Power App, Dataverse table. So let's just run through the form part of this so you can kind of see it if you haven't used or haven't seen the other videos. So we're just going to read this in real quick. It only takes a couple seconds. We've got the form now in our model. We're going to write it out to a new SharePoint list. Set a few pieces of metadata. We're going to put it to a completely different site. We're going to stick it right there. And we'll click next. This will create the list if it doesn't exist. Set the columns and publish our runtime package. And we can, as soon as it finishes up here, we'll just click this kind of what's next link, and it'll take us to the list, and you can see it's empty. There's nothing in it. So we'll go ahead, click finish, come over here, click the data icon up here in the toolbar, and now you can see kind of both sides of this. You see the source connection, the destination, you see the fields that are mapped. Some basic settings here. If you're running this migration more than once, you can choose to overwrite the items in the destination. You can promote created and modified metadata. So if you want the author, editor, date created, date modified from the source to show up in the destination, check that. If you want to get sent an email, when it's done, just go ahead and put your email in there. And then you can click start. And as it notes here on the bottom, this all runs in the background. So you can just kind of close this, you can walk away from it, go home for the weekend if it's a big one, and then come back later and start it up. So right now this is just doing some work. It's kind of getting now it's going. It was spinning up the feeder there, and then it was looking at the size, like how many rows are there on the source, figuring out how many export workers it needed on the left, spinning those up, starting to do the import on the right and saying, oh, I'm not keeping up, let me spin up a few more importers. So it auto scales kind of on both sides of this based on the size of based on the number of rows on the source. It then spins up a corresponding number of import workers on the right to kind of keep up. It's not perfect, because there are obviously the variability in the size of the payload coming across. The form that we're dealing with here, multiple repeating sections with attachments. Some of the forms have attachments, others don't. Some of them have, very filled out, multiple rows in each repeating section, others are not. So we have different sizes. The other thing we have to deal with, especially in this particular environment, because it's a development environment, is the threshold on the number of requests we can submit per minute. So what you might see if you're sitting here watching this, especially with a large data set, in an environment that's got a lot going on, you might see these little pauses or blips in the migration process, and that's because it starts throwing 429s. And in that header of that 429 message, there's a header that comes back that tells us when we can start basically sending requests again. Depending on how many of those we get and what the retry interval is, we start scaling back the workers on the left and the workers on the right. I believe this one has 771, so it's done exporting, and it's in the process of finishing up the import, and hopefully won't run into any more 429s. But the reason I kind of talked through that while this was going is to make you understand that it's a very flexible migration. It adjusts itself based on the size of the load, the amount of requests that it's able to complete successfully within the time interval dictated by Microsoft. You know, not a huge number of forms, but in our experience, that's above average for most people's form libraries, although we are dealing with one customer that has 300,000 instances of a particular form. But this on average is below what we normally see. And you can see it did it in 2.5 minutes. You can see the log here in line if you dismissed this or walked away from it. I've also got the email here. I'll bring it up. So here's the email it sends. It tells you that it's finished, and then you can open it up and see that exact same log in PDF format. It's very detailed. It tells you, every item that was exported, its source identifier, and every one that was imported, so you can, kind of see that everything got there. Oh, last piece, the proof. Go back over to that site, and now you can see it's been filled in. And if I do the scroll all the way down, let it fill in all the items, I can select everything, and you can see 771. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Check out the website, kudzusoftware.com. If you're doing InfoPath migrations, we have a tool called the Formulator. You can grab that from formulator.kudzusoftware.com. It's absolutely free, no obligation. Give it a try, download it. It can scan on premises and cloud-based SharePoint instances. Thank you.